The things we've done really well on have been the things that have been most closely aligned to the strategy. It's the personal connection, so it's appropriate to me personally. It's trust, a belief in the authenticity and truth of the brand, difference and distinctiveness, and that Nationwide is set apart from the rest of the category.
I don't think any other media can quite do the emotion that you need through audio-visual. It's just so powerful.
And so seeing that not just we're getting good results, but those results are coming in exactly the way we hoped they would has been a great thing to see.
We have a different ethos and fundamental methodology about how we conduct our business. We don't have shareholders in the same way that banks do. If it's not right for the membership, we don't do it. Got 15 million members, and it's highly important that we look after the ones we've got, and in fact they are our priority. They've made us who we are today. It's a virtuous circle really. The more members we get in, the more we can make for the membership in totality, and it gets reinvested back into the business in the form of better products and services for all. So the more we have and the more effectively they generate, it's a better model for everybody. Current accounts are really important because they're often the gateway product to other things, and most customers who have a banking relationship will probably turn to their current account as their first port of call to say that's who my relationship is with. So probably going back 5 or 6 years, we'd launched a few new current accounts into the market, and our approach at the time was to just talk about the deal and the offer. It really was best described probably as short-termism, short-term activation. We are fundamentally different, and we wanted therefore to embark on a campaign which was clearly rooted in our building society ethos, putting building society back into the logo. We moved to a model of an advertising in 2015, which many people describe as scarf. We call it generations, but it was about a lost scarf, which doesn't have a product in it at all.
I'll keep you safe.
Rooted in that story, implicitly, is a story of trust and care, a relationship between a dad and his son, brought together with a moment where our employee solves a problem, reuniting the lost scarf with the customer, all wrapped up in a song that says "I'll keep you safe." When added together, subconsciously, suggests to me this is an organisation which does the right thing, cares about me, and looks after me. And I think in financial services, what more do you want?
And I'll keep it safe.
Scarf thing had been running for a year. Nearly, I think it was about 10 months, and we needed to freshen it up a little bit. So we still kept the same sort of emotional storytelling, this time with a girl distributing and sharing cakes around a local town.
Hey, have you ever tried really reaching out for the other side?
So all these switching offers you see in the market, which is to encourage new customers to come in with £100, we fundamentally disagree with that approach. We said we can't do that. Our existing customers should get the benefit as well. So we structured a different offer, which was if you recommend someone to join us, you'll both benefit, which is very mutual and very building society.
Good things happen when you share. So why not recommend your Nationwide current account to a friend, and we'll give you £100 each once they've switched their current account to us.
Dreams,
Life's better when we share.
And then we thought, we're going to need to take a completely different approach, because if we truly believe our difference is meaningful to people, we really should be pulling away from the pack even more. And we thought, well, let's try something completely different.
The IPA Data Bank, despite the fact that it very credibly sets out the power of emotional advertising, long-term focus, and that's well established, also in the data bank it establishes that financial service brands tend to focus much more on rational advertising, short-term focused advertising. And then when they do try to go emotional, they go emotional in the same way. So it's house moving, boxes, little baby bumps with hands on them. Sort of felt like we can see people in all of these ads, but we never hear from them. What we hear from is this slightly omnipotent voice of the bank, almost trying to sum up the entire nation in a single advert. So we were keen to find a different approach.
We saw the idea of spoken word poetry, which came out of VCCP. And when we first saw it, we thought, wow, that could be really powerful. this is going to take us to somewhere where no one's been before, and we all got quite excited about it really quickly.
Focusing on ordinary people can lead you to very ordinary advertising, so it was a bit of a creative challenge to work out how we can make it feel real but also distinctive, and in those two things and that sort of tension is where the idea was sort of formed.
So in September 2016, when the first one aired, which was Holly McNish, we deliberately placed it in X Factor, wanting to make sure that the placement was going to provide some impact as well, in an environment which was very family, but having spoken word in a show like that was going to stand out.
I remember that feeling, that nothing would be the same again. The pain lessening, but a responsibility as they placed you in my arms, a terrifying shock. I remember that feeling that I had never known what freedom meant until you fell asleep, until you went to feed entirely dependent on my chest. I remember the hospital gown, the dry toast, the total tiredness, the scared senseless buried in the bundled blankets they wrapped you in.
I mean, we were passionate about making sure that the briefs that went to the poets were not asking them to talk about Nationwide. We'll tell you to write your words, you wear your clothes, we don't do makeup, we set it where you want to be, and that's basically, for a 60-second ad, that's 45 to 50 seconds of it is your world.
You swept your feet without me seeing, wrote, "I love you, Mum," across the sand. You asked me if I liked it, licked the ice cream dripped upon your hand and watched me melt as fast. It's those little things you do that melt my heart.
And then we find our solution for the end of it. So we're very clear. We sort of know what the end line's going to say before we brief it.
When you make sort of 44 different executions, they're not all going to slavishly follow the same formula. And there are some that have been more about the Nationwide story, but actually they're not about the Nationwide story. They're about Alfred and Elizabeth, two people once upon a time who benefited from the first mortgage. And so in telling that story, we were really clear it shouldn't be the story of the building society. It had to be about those people. We needed to find someone who wanted to tell that story, and Jo Bell is a fantastic poet who is fascinated by history.
Elizabeth and Alfred Idle are Victorians, librarians, lending worthy books to milliners and coachmen. Every borrower bets on a better life tomorrow.
It's quite a demanding idea for media, and certainly one where Wavemaker have been a fantastic ally in working the media plan to make the most of the idea. So I think first and foremost, it is a TV-led idea, unashamedly so, because we need to hear from them. We need to hear those voices. We need to see their faces. We need all of that for it.
Alfred Idle signs the dotted lifeline and becomes our mortgage number one.
We've opted for 60s and 20s, which is, again, quite different, and we've run a lot of 60s. There's not a lot of people in the market doing 20s, but we felt that the 20 could still get the message across whilst borrowing the power of the emotion from the 60.
Our son is 28. Now here's some food for thought. He may have flown the nest, but he still needs our support.
It sort of works at a 60-second length, it works at a 20-second length, but it doesn't really work in between, and in between is the conventional time length buying strategy for the category. And so, I think part of that, again, becomes part of the signature for the brand is how the media is planned.
We've used other media, we've used press from time to time, we've actually put poems in press, we've used radio, we use all our own channels, and we've got our branches carrying these messages, we've got our website. We've got all the tools to our disposal and we use them, but TV will always be the bread and butter of our media plan.
The Mother's Day campaign involved, it was as close to a live ad as we've ever been.
Mum, I've got a surprise for you in the house.
Okay, what is it?
This is Laurie, and she's here to help me say something to you.
He had this poem commissioned to be read to her for Mother's Day, captured in the moment, and then played out on that day.
You gave me everything. Your love of cooking created the recipe for how to make a Gavin. Handwritten ingredients passed down, a sprinkle of talking to myself, a splash of alcohol poured as freely as Belfast rain.
So it was a very different approach from a category that's used to advertising that takes years in the planning and months in the production.
When you reach for social media to see whether anyone's bothered to talk about your ads, it's quite reassuring to know when it goes off the scale, and you couldn't load the tweets fast enough.
You have given me everything.
I'll be honest.
So it's rare that you land on an ad which people talk about anyway. It's probably even rarer in financial services you're landing on an ad that people talk about. And we got thousands of tweets, and Facebook was similar, and we thought, well, actually this is having some impact.
It wasn't just that there was a response to it that was sort of gratifying, it was what people were saying. So when Holly first played out, I remember someone tweeting that they were sat on the couch with their sister who had just become a new mum, and for the first time she felt understood. That's a powerful emotional connection that you rarely get in a response to advertising. It's not just the brand results have been really strong, the business results have been there as well. And looking back over the full sort of 5-year period that Nationwide's been on this journey, they've pretty much doubled their market share of all new accounts that are opening.
This could not have happened without television. I've been around here quite a long time, and I'm yet to see anything which is a substitute for TV. Now, I've been in a period at Nationwide where we've been off air for 18 months, and I've seen the impacts that can have. We've been in other media, but no other media has been able to sustain what TV does for you. The current account switching service issue data every quarter about what brands are gaining and which ones are losing. In 2017, our gain share was higher than all the other competitors added together. So we had more current account customers coming to us than all the banks added together. Since 2014, every time the cash data was reported, we've seen increases in net gains, and the most recent data is supporting that as well. So if you want to have a model that says drive your emotional brand building activity over the long term and see what it does to short-term sales when you drop in really focused offer-led messages in the short term, and when they both go up in the same direction at the same time, you feel you're onto a winner. In one line, I'd say it's a victory for long-termism. It's also a victory for emotional brand building. It's a victory for sustained media spend. And it's a victory also for short-term activation. We are the most guilty people to want to move to something new and shiny. And it just proves to me that new and shiny ain't always right. If you've got something that works, don't change it. Or change it at your peril.
The story for me is really 3 things. It's firstly a brand that sort of regained its confidence in its origins. Nationwide became confident in recognising its building society past and putting that front and centre and interpreting it for today. I think it's also a story about how a business that has gained confidence in believing in advertising, the power of advertising, and learning about the best ways to go about building the brand and the business through advertising. The strategy shouldn't be generic. It should be specific to the circumstances, to the brand. And in this case, helping Nationwide set itself apart, you can't do that with advertising that looks and feels like other people's advertising.
We were finding ourselves probably about in 2013 lying in about 5th or 6th position in share of voice terms. And now, according to Nielsen data, we'll be near the top, certainly in TV terms, but all above the line. And we're there or thereabouts in the pack now, and we can genuinely start to compete and have a louder voice. I get excited when I see results where things are clearly moving the dial on brand metrics which often take years and decades to shift. It makes me feel like investing time and effort into the creativity and buying the right things has had the output you want. That's when I start to feel like this is all worth it.